was told that if I took longer than 30 seconds, I'd be yanked off the stage. It gives me great pleasure, as President of the Faculty Senate, to welcome all of you to the annual State of the College Address. And I'd like to introduce Dr. Peter Buckley, who I call our Communication Dean. Thank you.
Ron? Thanks so much. Thank you. I appreciate the comment about Communications Dean. I should point out that last year I had the opportunity to move around the stage. This year I have an electronic tag on me, but it's for a very good reason, because we have the opportunity this year not just to have the presentation here in this auditorium, but we also have a number of sites around the state, and this is provided with an opportunity not only for our colleagues at each of our regional campuses to be able to hear the presentation live, but also for our alumni to have the opportunity to step in for an hour if they so wish. And so I do want to make sure that each of our campus sites are actually hooked in, and they should appear in the screen, and if they don't, then somebody will have the opportunity to follow up with them. So I'd like to see whether our colleagues in Athens are here. If you could say yay or nay. It's kind of exciting, isn't it? Okay. Albany? Okay, that's very good. Rome? Excellent. And then we'll move to Savannah. Very good. 100% on my book. I should also point out that in addition to sites which are actually hooked in, there's just some issue that we'll be connected with. But in addition to that, we're also doing live streaming. And so, for instance, there are colleagues in different departments that have chosen rather to come here to be in their offices, and that's respectful of time and activity. And all of you have given up something to come here. I want to tell you what I heard of last evening, an individual that chose here at this moment in time over going for a root canal appointment. And so I'd like to really thank that person today. Last year I had the opportunity, as you know, to give the presentation with the title Continuum of Leadership 1, I guess, and so this is continuation of a theme, and the theme you will see today is entitled Building on Our Momentum. And last year, Ron did indeed announce that I was that year a rookie dean, and I've moved on just a little bit since then, and you will remember that last year I may have begun by saying I was humbled to be dean. Well, someone collared me aside and said, "Have you ever heard of the quotation from Golda Meir?" And the quotation is, "Don't be humble, you're really not that good." And so that was very helpful for me to receive that information. I'd like to ask you, who is Herbert Nickens? Anybody know who Herbert Nickens is? Ree Fincher will know. Ree, tell our audience who Herbert Nickens is.
Herb is was a former vice president for student affairs at the Association of American Medical Colleges, who did a huge amount of work early on around issues related to diversity and inclusion. Herb suffered an unexpected and untimely sudden death while playing tennis a number of years ago. He looked like the pinnacle of health, and since then has been honored with the establishment of a number of awards and scholarships and so on.
By the way, would you like to give this presentation? That was really pretty good. And so the reason I put up Herbert Nickens is because a premier award for medical students recognizing foundational work in diversity and advocacy is indeed the Herbert Nickens Award. And no medical student at this institution has ever won this award until last November, when there were actually tears in the audience as LaShawn Sturgis, our student, won the Herbert Nickens Award, and that deserves a clap. LaShawn, where is LaShawn? Congratulations. It's a wonderful achievement. And so I emphasize that because that's the kind of leadership that we need to emulate, and it's a really good problem when your students are moving faster than you are. So LaShawn, congratulations. Also, the team building on our momentum, I want to point out to you what you already know, which is that we, several years ago, had an effort to develop, a valiant effort to develop a education commons, but that fell on hard times with the recession, and quite frankly, with Dr. Aziz's efforts, with a lot of other people involved, we turned that around. The Board of Regents got behind it, but they said this time around, you got to have skin in the game. And through the efforts, in simply 9 months, with a whole new team and a new leader with Susan Barkas, we've been able to raise $23 million towards a new building. That is simply phenomenal, and that deserves a clap. And what's also remarkable about it is that you can take the political good word out of it. This represents a very significant statement of Governor Deal's administration, that they are behind Georgia Health Sciences University and they are behind Augusta. And yesterday, Dr. Aziz, Mr. Hefner, and I had the opportunity to be at the post-legislative breakfast, and we heard again Lieutenant Casey Cagle refer to a first-class medical school. And so we have the kind of support that we need to do the good work that you're going to do. And we have had a whirlwind of a year, and we would be here till Monday morning, 8:45, if I were to go over each of these items. I'm not going to go over each of them, just to point out that in a relatively short period of time of 18 months, we have had a phenomenal amount of change, a phenomenal amount of integration, not just structural, but also functional. And I'd like to acknowledge the very many people, both leadership and throughout the institution, that have both tolerated and contributed to that. We have been on a remarkable pace of change, which today's presentation will not do justice to. The areas that I'm going to focus on today is on our efforts with medical students, our efforts with research, our efforts with residency, our efforts in clinical growth and quality, and also our efforts in advocacy, in particular our efforts in philanthropy and our efforts in alumni engagement. And I hope you will be impressed and pleased as I reflect back to you your own good efforts. This information is actually available as you leave. There are new fast facts regarding the Medical College of Georgia. It's a 2-page. If it looks advertising as an advertisement, that's exactly what it is. We are in the business of advertising the good work that we're doing, and these are the numbers with respect to our medical school, and they are indeed impressive, and they affirm the kind of robust infrastructure and profile that you would expect from a medical school that is the 6th largest medical school by student numbers in the country. And we are very proud of our students, not just our entire body of students, but also the very elements of education and our groups within that, not just our medical students. I do want to say a little bit about our MD, PhD students, and also our residents, and hopefully also our postdoctoral fellows. Today is meant to be a more austere presentation, but you will remember the bordering on mayhem, bordering on chaos bordering on lunatic excitement on March 16th, when we had the match day, and indeed there was plenty to be happy about. It was a terrific day. You can see that our students matched very well. They matched at top-tier places around the country, and gratifyingly, many of them decided to remain in Georgia, and of those that decided to remain in Georgia, almost half of them decided to remain here. This is good news, but it also is a glass half full, glass half empty, and we do need to redouble our efforts to increase, as appropriate, the number of medical students that seek to stay with us, and I'll indicate the rationale for that a little bit later in the presentation. Also want to recognize to you that the reason we want to keep our medical students as appropriate is because they are stellar students. And we attract from across every county in Georgia. We have an admissions committee that is second to none, that do a fabulous job looking carefully at each application, and they call out a very fine class. This is the class of 2015. Their MCAT scores are above the national average, and we are very proud of their activities, particularly as they've begun high in training and also high in community involvement, both here and in Athens. And we are proud of their activities, both in the community, but we're also proud of our students' scholastic activities. And this is a remarkable slide. If you remember any slide from this presentation, please remember this one. And so what this slide is, are students that are now in their third year, but at the end of their second year, they got to take their first medical school real test, if you like, the USMLEs. And typically you can see across America that there is about a 92, 93% on average every year pass rate, and that tells you people that intend to become doctors when they go into medical school, the likelihood is that they're going to pass their grades and they're going to graduate as doctors. But here at the Medical College of Georgia, our pass rate last year with that class was 99.5%. That is outstanding. And you can see that the scores are 10 points above the national average. And unless you think that's a freak result, this is the step 2. This is the next phase. And again, you can see we are above the national average. And I show you this information so that you can boast about it, so that you can congratulate our students, and so that you can encourage the students that are coming up doing their exams shortly. That's what it's about, performance improvement. I'm particularly proud, and in the theme of building on the momentum, I'm particularly proud of the efforts of first off Ed Inchko, but now latterly Nevin Lambert and Jennifer Pollock, who've taken over the reins of the MD PhD program. And if you're going to ask who tomorrow is going to be the next Jennifer or David Pollock, it's our job to train the next Jennifer or David Pollock. And so we have a responsibility to do that. And an MD PhD program is incredibly important. Jennifer and Nevin have taken it and overhauled it. It's particularly glad that they got an external review by 2 outstanding scholars that said we were on track, but we have work to do in terms of getting an MSTP application in the coming years, which really will be a federal support for our program that's so important and also a mark of distinction. And we attract very good MD, PhD programs, and we plan to continue to do that. Lest you think that this is a feel-good presentation, I do want to tell you that there are some sharks in the water. And in an unprecedented manner, the accreditation body for medical schools, the the LCME have got tough. And there are currently 6 medical schools on probation, including San Juan de Batista, where we were very fortunate to be able to offer a home for a graduating student. What a great idea, because this student now is going into our residency in pediatrics and was a wonderful student to join us. But the LCME have got tough. Under Reeve Fincher's leadership and with a stellar group in academic affairs, we did very well in 2008, but we should not rest in our laurels. And I will point out to you that the 2 measures in yellow clearly and squarely reside in our education in terms of both objectives and terms of both lecture format. But it's not as simple as being good teachers and training good doctors. You've got to have the right milieu and the right educational mix. And so we need to be on guard, and we need to be preparing for the next LCME visit, which will probably come in about 2:15, 2:16, but you can never be too early, and we need to do a self-study. And so these are some of the areas also highlighted that we need to pay attention to, and I'll be telling you as we go along the way how indeed we are paying attention to these. I also did not casually introduce our colleagues at our other campuses, and while I didn't get a resounding yes, we're here, I know they are there because we've built a remarkable profile. And the last time when LCME came in here, they were amazed at the distributed educational network. And at that time, it was mostly clinical faculty in small practices. Now we have built out a remarkable profile that deserves the recognition of Linda Boyd, all of our educational teams, and obviously our faculty at each of our campuses. And I want to spend a moment just giving you a sense of how the profile has changed over time. This is our distinct and important partnership with Athens. It's a partnership with UGA, a wonderful institution. We are very fortunate that not only do we have stellar faculty there, but they are embracing the concept of the hub and spoke, and they are getting involved in institutional and statewide activities. So for instance, this coming Tuesday, Dr. Shelley Nuss will be presenting at the Board of Regents on our statewide efforts related to GME that I'll tell you about shortly. Our colleagues and our students at Athens are very fortunate that this coming July we'll be moving into the Naval Building. This is a phenomenal opportunity and a great distinction. And I'll show you a little bit later about medical student research, but I've got to tell you that it's happening across our area where our students are, and it's happening very well in Athens, including the opportunity for training with some of our UGA faculty, a very nice opportunity. And Athens as a community are going to experience shortly what you take for granted, which is when the medical students don their white coats and they go around the units and they interact with patients, and they are part of the medical community having come out from their basic training. And our colleagues in Athens, our clinical faculty, our hospital leadership, and that community have got behind our students, and this is a fantastic opportunity for the development of our clerkships. A word about Albany, which is another community that has entirely embraced our training as well as our clinical relationship, and many people deserve credit, but I'd like to single out both Charlie Howell as well as Bernie Maria for their leadership, as well again as Linda Boyd, and very many people for building this relationship. We have a great colleague there in Doug Patton, And this is in many ways the essence of what we're trying to do. It's not only a great training site for our medical students, but we're also developing the care there. We're hiring pediatric hospitalists, and we're developing a tertiary and quaternary referral program that benefits Albany and that region and also benefits us in our system. And so we're very excited by that opportunity. And next up is our GME activities that I'll tell you about shortly. We actually had an LCME visit to Savannah and Brunswick campus in December. It went swimmingly under Catherine Martin's leadership and also with the support of Dr. Scott at St. Joseph's Chandler, and of course the support of Dr. Dan DeLoach. And this is a phenomenal opportunity, and I'm particularly proud that not only do we have good training there, but we are also training in association with our colleagues and students at Mercer and at Memorial Hospital. And this is a very good partnership, and that area will also develop a theme curriculum in public health. With respect to Rome, it is remarkable and invigorating to visit Rome, not just because of the incredibly high care and quality of medical care in Rome, a medical community second to none around the country with an extraordinarily integrated medical record system, but also this is a community from the very leadership, the civic leadership that have got behind our developing of a campus. And Dr. Len Reeves hopefully will be opening that in July 2013. This is a very complicated network that we are fortunate to have the support to run. And earlier in March of this year, we had Dr. Craig Brater, thanks to the leadership of Joseph Hobbs. Dr. Brater is Dean at Indiana University and runs the largest medical school with 300 medical students, just a little over, and 9 regional campuses. And so they've been doing this for quite some time. They gave us very good advice. And then also we were fortunate to have the leadership of Dr. Linda Boyd. And I've given you here some of the core principles, and they nicely aggregate to about 5 or 6 C's that include not only, as always, money in terms of having the support for this kind of network, and the LCME will drill down on us to make sure that we both have the money and we spend the money wisely. But in addition to that, that we have the kind of resources as well as the connectedness that's expected. And as I indicated to you in Athens, our faculty and our community physicians are integral to the success of the next phase. And it's appropriate that Mr. Sean Vincent, who's joined us as VP for Outreach, if you look around, you won't find him in this room today. He is in Athens doing outreach because we are interested in not simply an educational hub and spoke. We are interested in a true, multifaceted partnership that embraces providing clinical care and collectively meeting our mission and our honor to the state of improving the health of Georgians. That is not just Georgians in Augusta. That is Georgians throughout the state. It represents our mission to improve and develop new knowledge, which requires, of course, a statewide perspective, particularly if we focus on health disparities or public policy, and it requires us to become engaged with our community, not just our local community here, but our community of Georgians, and of course, our philanthropic outreach is at its best when it has a statewide perspective. But we are being collaborative not just in a broad outreach, we also need to be collaborative across each of our colleges and across each of our specialties, because while medicine is a defining specialty, people that seek care are not simply seeking doctors. They are seeking a team of care, and they are seeking people that work well together. And so why would we train individuals in isolation? And we are in the process of looking at how, as part of our strategic planning 2020, we can move towards a more integrated model of care, and we are putting in place the structures, including the Education Innovation Institute, to assist us in interprofessional learning. And I'm particularly delighted to say that I began with several of our colleagues, including some of our colleagues from ASU, at 7 o'clock this morning, talking about our simulation center and interprofessional learning. So guys, we are doing this. You may not realize this, but about a year ago, we had a curveball thrown at us. And there was great concern. It traces its origins back to the Institute of Medicine quality chasm, the concern that there was and is difficulties in quality in American healthcare, and there was a concern that maybe residents that were up late at night, that were overburdened, that they would contribute to lesser care at academic health centers, and also that their own training was disproportionately weighted towards service. And so our residents and you as faculty and attending responded to this call of a shift in duty hours, and under the leadership of Walt Moore, took this totally in your stride. And so we are delivering a more faculty-oriented level of care that also balances the educational needs of our residents. This is a very good achievement. We also increased the salaries of our residents. Walter Moore somehow got this humongous TV for our residents for the on-call that they're doing, and so we're trying to increase the work environment. Why is that important? Well, they'll function better if they've a better work environment. And by the way, if we don't have a good educational and work environment, they won't help us recruit the next bunch of residents. So this is a key workforce issue. And I've included in here a slide that's practically looked at, published earlier this year, looking at the issue of whether resident-driven care in relation to duty hours is associated with poorer care, and it is not. But we also are practicing continuous quality improvement in our residency training. And you should read this. This is a formative publication in the New England Journal of Medicine just a couple of weeks ago, talking about accreditation standards and essentially revving up the game for resident accreditation. And we are fortunate that we have the kind of leadership and the kind of experience in GME, and in particularly with our program directors, that we can step up to this challenge that's going to represent a shift from external accreditation to more internal accreditation and monitoring. This is a shift that's very appropriate. It's consistent with what LCME is doing, and it's also consistent with what is happening with Joint Commission. But this will, of course, require us to be good at quality management and be ensuring that our residents get the kind of supervision and the kind of support that they need. And there will be a lot of focus, as I said, on quality, on safety, and on care transitions. So this will have implication for us in terms of our delivery of care. I mentioned a little earlier the importance of our commitment to our state, and we have a commitment to assist in the development of residency positions. And we are not well positioned. In fact, we're mal-aligned nationally. We're at pretty much the bottom of the pile in terms of our residency per capita. And while we have led the country in terms of developing of new medical student positions, with a remarkable trajectory that fits very much in line with the AAMC call to have a 30% increase in the number of medical students, there is a dissonance or a fall short between that and the number of residency slots. And this is important. Dr. Aziz, Regent Ken Bernard, and now most latterly Regent Hopkins, and in fact all the regents, really took this issue on over the last year and developed a very comprehensive assessment with respect to improving the GME in Georgia. And while I said to you that the legislature and Governor Deal has been very good to Georgia Health Sciences this year and to Augusta even today, as you know, he has been very good to our state. And our legislator and the governor have stepped up to the plate where there's a federal fall short, and they have recommended that we develop 400 new residency positions. Not here at GHSU, we're already doing that, but to increase the number of hospitals that are involved in residency training across the state, because currently we have only 16 participants in GME, and so this is a great opportunity for us, and of course the opportunity will be realized as these doctors not only train here, but ideally stay here, because where doctors do their residency training is a much greater predictor of where they will ultimately practice than where they go to medical school. I am particularly proud and feel privileged that our colleagues at University Hospital have been wonderful partners as we are developing something that those of you that have trained earlier through here, and certainly those of you that are alumni, remember with great fondness as a wonderful training affiliate at university hospitals. And with the support and leadership of Jim Davis, again, Ricardo was key. Also, Randy Smith was key. And I'll say a word in a moment about Bill Farr. This has been a very important effort, and we will launch, again, Walt Moore's been very helpful. Barry Jenkins has been very helpful. We will launch in July 1st an extension and increase in our surgical residency, a, no pun intended, a rebirth of our OB residency rotation, and then also a spanking new hospitalist rotation, because University Hospitals has a nationally renowned hospitalist program. Last year, we had the honor and privilege and opportunity to recognize Ms. Karen Nixon, who is a wonderful community colleague. Karen, thank you very much. You get recognized this year too. And you can imagine it was really easy to pick this year's community advocate. It is my friend, my colleague, and a wonderful doctor for this community, Dr. Bill Farr. Bill, I'd like you to come up and be recognized as our Community Advocate of the Year. I know, we tricked you. Thank you so much. Thank you for everything you do. Please give him another hand of. Great. We had, excuse me 1 second. We had a fabulous weekend last weekend at Homecoming. It was really invigorating. And we had the opportunity to present these data that Scott Henson aggregated. Look at that. 20% increase in membership. That's phenomenal. Look at that graph. But it's not just an increase in the numbers, it's the degree of engagement. And I'm particularly proud that that's happened under Dr. Joseph Hobbs' leadership as president, and looking forward to Dr. Henry Klein, who is with us in Atlanta, who again will be a great leader for us. And we have a stellar leadership as example by Dr. Alva Mays, traveling from Macon to be here. Thank you, Dr. Mays, appreciate your leadership. We have gone around the state, but we've done things differently. We've brought medical students. They've brought their research posters that I'll show you about. We've brought department chairs, and we've brought new glossy materials, and we've been incredibly welcomed across the state. We've been supported for our RAF debate. We've been supported in so many ways, and we are, in the words of Dr. Mays, entering a new era of trust and respect and collaboration. And in addition to the new building that we're so proud about, you can't have a new building if you don't have medical students to go in there, and medical students have choices, and they are driven by finances. Why wouldn't they be? And it's expensive to become a medical school. They build up debt. Here's the debt for medical students in Georgia. Why is it important? I told you, because LCME are concerned about that, and also it's a great concern to people earlier on in their lives. And so our alumni and our foundation, with the leadership of Dr. Rowland, Dr. Whitaker, and again Dr. Mays, have developed a new Dean's Endowed Scholarship. And if this is successful, and I believe it will be, it will not only support medical students, but it will initiate in the first year, and so therefore that will be an opportunity for our students at the beginning of their training. And I would be remiss if I did not also acknowledge Dr. Turner's family's contribution, honoring a very dear alumnus, and so Wayne and his family endowed the Turner Medical Scholarship. And make no mistake, I hope you're sitting each comfortably in your seat, but we would welcome your support of any endowments as well. Because with Susan's leadership having done an overhaul, we are on a drive. It is, as I said, remarkable that we have an educational commons going to be breaking ground this year after such a short campaign. We are also working very hard with our foundation to not only increase and develop our endowed chairs, but also to fill some of our endowed chairs. And this presents a great opportunity, as I'll show you, to bring great colleagues to the Medical College of Georgia. And we appreciate our relationship with the Georgia Research Alliance and the opportunity that that will bring now to not only increase our research portfolio, but also target it on cancer with the new leadership of Dr. Cleef. This takes me to say a couple of words about our research portfolio. This, of course, is not inclusive, but it hits the high points for a presentation like this of what are we good about. This is the elevator speech. What are we particularly good about? What are we interested in, and who would we go out and recruit to build on our momentum? And these are some of the exciting areas of research that we're involved in. To conduct high-quality research costs and takes money, and we have been very competitive at a national level, particularly with National Institute of Health and particularly with Lung Institute. And this is complicated because, of course, we've watched the runoff from President Obama's ARA Act, which topped up temporarily the amount of research funding. And so we, like many other institutions, are running about 15% less than the prior year, which essentially represents the fall off from ARA. But if we have sought funding sources in other areas, and I'm particularly proud of all our colleagues that represent that we are 9th in the nation with respect to American heart funding, and I'm particularly glad that that fact is not lost on our EVP for Clinical Affairs, Mr. Hefner, who has leveraged that as well as our clinical activities and as well as our advocacy activities to have us much more front and center and cardiovascular focused. Just a few examples. You know that, of course, we had a pre-show that highlighted awards and activities of people. It's always dangerous to highlight particular people. I would like to say that Darren Ferris is actually the guy wearing the white coat, just so that you know that. But we have some fantastic research going on here, but also reaching out globally, beginning to really establish a global footwork. And you do that through collaborations, being well known, being respected, being sought after, by giving high quality presentations. Particularly proud of Dr. Lin Mei, who will be heading up the Gordon Research Conference in China this June. This is a phenomenal opportunity. And also, you've got to provide high-quality profiles, and these are high-quality, a sample of some of the high-quality journals that our faculty publish in. Space is always a problem. I'm grateful to Mark Hamrick for taking over that problem. Thank you, Mark, because I didn't want that problem. But I am grateful to Mark for showing leadership and trying to establish some early guidelines that can help us with respect to both the allocation and the timing and funding with respect to space. But space is always a problem. And we need a new building. And so while we were just on the heels of getting an educational commons building, we really do need a research building. And I'm going to keep saying that. Katie Davis last year, there you are, Katie. Katie made noise about it last year. Promised you I'd say it again this year. We need a new research building, so that has to be a priority for us. Particularly proud that our medical students have been involved in research. And last week, this time actually last week, I met a Dr. Matthew Jansen, an alumnus of here who came in from Colorado, and he was checking us out for his son Matt, who's thinking of coming here. And he asked, "You guys do any medical student research?" And I was able to whip out this diagram. Isn't this phenomenal? You guys don't want to clap? Have you lost your hands or something? This is phenomenal. And it could not be achieved without the support of our faculty, because it does take additional time and effort and sometimes resources to train people that are early on. But you should come to the poster session that will be at the end of the summer. It's really staggering. The quality of work is simply phenomenal. I'm particularly pleased that we had such a successful end recruit of the cancer search for new director, and Dr. Samir Cleef is somewhere here. There he is. Samir, we're glad you're here. Tell him we're glad you're here, guys. And Samir is working hard to bring a new cadre of individuals, but he is not being indiscriminate in his recruitment. He has a very smart plan that's focused on core areas: tumor immunology, microenvironment, angiogenesis, an area of strength already for our area with colleagues like John Catravis and others that have made their career in these areas, and also focusing on developing a clinical trials program, which already we have the very good stage of it with the work of Dr. Gamandi and also in Angelea and others, but this provides us with a great opportunity to build a statewide program that will offer for Georgians treatments that they will not be able to otherwise get. And that is very exciting and represents the true kind of outreach that we should expect as we take what will be probably a substantial but an exciting journey towards NCI designation. I'm also grateful to Mark for his leadership and David Hess for chairing the search that has brought us a new leader in our area of translational development. And this is important because about 5 slides ago I showed you the dwindling of federal funding, and so there have to be other funding sources, and our own innovation and ingenuity is a funding source. And so we have to have and develop that engine, and this represents another great opportunity for us, particularly as we bring in colleagues, and we have a fantastic colleague today that can lead us forward that Mark and I will be interviewing at 4 o'clock and hopefully recruiting by 5. Word about our clinical profile. We've been this year honored by being #1 in one of the consumer reports. We've shown growth in our clinical activities across several areas, particularly in surgery. And we have improved our efficiencies in several areas, and this is important. It's not today's presentation, the mechanics of and the finances of running an academic medical center, but Mr. Hefner knows all too well that the clinical engine drives our growth, and so we've galvanized our efforts around him and others to ensure that we increase our clinical activity. Particularly grateful that we are now working in several areas, and this is important because healthcare is all the more challenging. This graphic illustrates for you the potential sources of funding now and in 2020, and our stable funding sources with respect to federal healthcare dollars in Medicaid and Medicare are likely to dwindle, and so we have to have a diverse portfolio that we can work with, and we have to place quality front and center, not just because it's the right thing to do, but it's also increasingly the way in which we will be measured and paid for our good efforts. I appreciate our administrative colleagues and our medical colleagues that have galvanized under Joe Thornton's efforts to take on what has been a weak side of our activities, and that is our ambulatory care. And so we are developing a medical group culture, and we are working furiously on core issues that are very important, which is when can I get in to see a doctor, and how can I be scheduled both on time and get to the person that I need to. And we are working very hard on that, and we will shortly, under the leadership of Laura Malloy, next month we will be opening a first-time ever executive health program, and that will be a gift to our community. Quality and delivering quality care is not something that you can take for granted. And this is a very clever graphic, and you know it well, and actually I got it from the CEO of our hospital, Doctors Hospital, Mr. Welch. And I want to take you through it because it is kind of interesting. And so all of you know that on airlines, you occasionally have a baggage problem. Anybody here that has not lost their bags sometime? But you will know that of all the times that you fly and you put in your bags, they do pretty good. They arrive with you most of the time, but you don't care about most of the time. You care about the one time when it doesn't work for you. And so, of course, if you had that kind of hit or miss when you got on a plane, you wouldn't get on a plane. And so the consistency and the quality of air flights is remarkable. The consistency and the quality of nuclear plant management in America is remarkable. If it wasn't, you wouldn't be excited about Plant Vogel because you'd be worried. But in fact, it is very tightly regulated. But you may be surprised to find that as an industry, healthcare, we are not quite as consistent. Yes, we provide high quality care, but not always every time. And that's what the Institute of Medicine was concerned about. And it's not because we've got a bad doctor or we've got a bad nurse. Of course, that can sometimes be the case. But it is more than often that there's something wrong with the process that we put together or the teammanship that we put together that doesn't allow us to produce the same kind of consistency of quality and safety that you expect when you get on your airline. And so quality and improvement is center stage, and Bill Canto, who has been a phenomenal leader for our institution, as we have worked on this key area, is very complicated. It gets down to what do you measure? And here I've shown you that there is disparity with respect to how easy it is to measure things and how quick and how well you can move the dial. And so we are moving towards a more consistency metrics with respect to quality, and also in line with national quality metrics. I'm particularly proud of our unit councils and many of our leaders that have stepped up to the plate to really get down in the sand with respect to managing quality and also involving our residents. Quality is a team effort, but this is just one measure that shows you that when you make the effort and you focus the spotlight, you can get the kind of results. And this is largely the work of Peter Rissing and his team, galvanizing our efforts with respect to catheter-related infections. And you will see that the CDC expects a goal for 2013 of 0.5. Doesn't matter on the details, but I tell you it's 0.5. Our Georgia hospitals are just a little behind, but we're not behind. We're 0.32. And so this is outstanding work as one measure. And just like the airline and the baggage, we need to be outstanding work in all our measures. You know, I guess you're right. If you wouldn't clap for quality, there'd be something wrong with that. And so we are not only doing this in a local effort, but we are doing this in a team effort with academic health centers across the country as part of the AAMC best practices for better care. And what's important about this, that it is not only focusing on some of the key quality metrics with respect to care, but they're also focusing, and we are also focusing with respect to training and with respect to research. And of course, that touches our overall mission. And we were fortunate to recently receive AAMC data, and I'd like to share that with you as a robust 69% response. And it shows you that across the country and also here at Georgia Health Sciences University, we are shifting our culture towards more of a quality culture. And you can see that shift in terms of the profile of responses, with greater emphasis on quality and greater recognition of quality in our practices. But we will be challenged with respect to inculcating that into our medical student curriculum and into our residency activities. And again, if you remember the full cycle of accreditation of residency, that's going to be more focused on what are we doing as self-study. Quality is going to be front and center of that. And so we need to continue to commit to quality, and I gather by your endorsement that you also agree with that. I'm particularly pleased that we have committed not just to quality in our clinical area, but really quality of feedback. And I'm grateful to our Faculty Senate that have pushed forward to have a faculty pulse. It's not asking, are our faculty dead or alive? It's asking, are we on the right track? Because I said at the beginning, we've had a whirlwind of changes, and it's important to sample the feedback of our constituents. Are we going in the right direction? And you can see this is not a knock your socks off improvement, but it is a clap on the back for what we're doing. And our faculty work extraordinarily hard, but they work in diverse manners, and we've begun to look at that specifically. How are we focusing towards our mission? And everybody is valuable, but not everybody does the same thing. Some are more focused on clinical work, some are more focused on education, and some are more focused on research. But it's in the aggregate of how are we focusing our efforts. This is very important to us, not just from a financial point of view, but also as we look and we implement our strategic plan 2020, it's important to know where we're spending our time and efforts. And I put this up as just an example of one particular department, but we've been looking at this in a more integrated way this year. You will remember last year we had a wonderful time as Alan Roberts came up, hobbled a little, but Alan Roberts came up on the left side to receive the award. And Alan Roberts sadly passed away in October, and we lost a great friend. We are fortunate that Bill Strong has taken over the position as our chief ethicist. But we remember Alan. He was a wonderful colleague, and because he was the inaugural recipient of the Professionalism Award, it certainly caused me to pause as to who we could select this year. And then it became incredibly obvious to me. And this year we selected Dr. Tony Pearson. And we selected Tony because he's a great doctor. Tony's an amazing doctor. He's an amazing contributor to this institution. He tells it like it is, but he's 150% committed to GHSU. And our residents love him, our medical students love him, and he is a lifesaver, and families love him. Would you please come up and accept this award, Tony? Thank you very much. Thank you. Fine. I'm going to wrap it up in about 2 minutes' time. I do want to tell you that in addition to our faculty development, it does look like you are telling us that you're happy. This is a good place for you to pursue your career objectives. That is why we have been able to recruit more individuals, and we have been on a remarkable journey of recruitment, not just this year, but I want to show you this graph that is profound in terms of the recruitment over the last 2 years. But that, of course, has to be balanced with people coming and people going. And we certainly don't want to keep everybody because many people go off to do great things. And I'm particularly proud that Dr. Doug Miller will be the new Dean of University of Alberta. Doug, congratulations. Thank you for all you've done. A quick word about diversity. This is the latest. We are not where we need to be by the numbers, but we are, through Kim Halber, Kent Gyans, and a number of other people's efforts, we are reaching out and doing the kind of things that will produce the results that we should over time. We are also, as I told you, engaging not just in our alumni, but with our community. We are now the largest single component practice of the Medical Association of Georgia, MAG, and we are similarly so for Richmond County Medical Society, and we are making plenty of noise. We are also celebrating the successes. Ree, there's Ree. Congratulations, Ree. We are fortunate that you have been with us and had such a wonderful career. You will remember as we get into the late hour that the theme of this presentation is building on our momentum. How can you build on the momentum of Ree Fincher and our students' successes? You go out and you get very good talent. And if you look at your email shortly, you'll hear about Dr. Paul Wallach, who is an educational superstar who will be joining us in August 1st. And Laura termed the rock star, is that the phrase? This is a phenomenal colleague, and I'm grateful to all of you in helping to bring him here. It's important because people are coming here because they're excited about what we're doing. We've got a vision, we've got a direction, we've got a momentum, and you will see that illustrated in Transformation 2020, but we also need to commit to that and develop our own strategic plan in the School of Medicine, and we will do that with some alacrity and also with tactics that are specific. And we're particularly pleased that we will be joining, our medical school will be joining other colleges as part of the consolidation, which represents a great opportunity for our college as well as for several others. You should notice we are making a lot of noise. We are getting a lot of airplay. That is not casual. We have been focusing on that. I particularly appreciate Tony Baker's efforts and Jeanette Ballatin. That's what happens when you have a stellar chief of staff in a medical school. They focus on getting the good word out of all your work. It's very important. I would like to remind you that in June we will be celebrating our leaders in terms of colleagues that have endowed professorship, regent professorships, and other distinguishments, emeritus professorship. This is a wonderful opportunity. It will be in this room Thursday, the 14th of June, 5:30 to 7:30. There's not a single one of you in this room that's not invited to that. And also, we have next week a remarkable opportunity. We have the Surgeon General of the Navy, a 1981 alumnus, and I'm grateful to almost Dr. George Lazari, the class president, for his efforts in making this happen. This will be a terrific opportunity. There's another opportunity because I am out of time and cannot take questions, but I'm welcome and willing to be roasted on the 15th of May, and I will take any comments or questions then. I appreciate your leadership, and I appreciate you staying the extra minute or two. Thank you all very much.